but we still have that kind of taste and believe moment, right? And so that's the core of our marketing, food in mouth. Get people to try our food, whether we're sampling it at different events, we're hosting company lunches on us, we're doing what we call Veggie Rookie Days, where we're getting our loyal fans to bring in one of their friends who hasn't really started their plant-based journey, and we treat the friend. It's basically our way of doing a buy one, get one free.
Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. With me is Mr. TK Pillan, and he is the founder and executive chairman of Veggie Grill. And we're going to talk all about the plant-based movement and their menu, which delivers amazing food. And if you go to the website, which I've done, I'm very amazed at the mouth-watering choices that this restaurant has. Listen up. We're not only going to talk about the menu and the plant-based movement, what makes this restaurant special, but we'll tackle all the other challenges, such as the labor crisis, pandemic pivots, of course, and what this company is doing to lead the industry forward in a whole new direction. You're not going to want to miss this episode, so stay tuned.
You're tuned in to the Restaurant Rockstars Podcast. Powerful ideas to rock your restaurant. Here's your host, Roger Bodwin.
Restaurant owners and managers, I call this the business of 1,000 details, and you've got more important things to worry about than calculating and paying your monthly sales tax on time. Well, that's where Davo comes in. Davo puts sales tax on autopilot for restaurants. Davo uses sales tax data from your point of sale system to set aside the exact amount of sales tax you collect every single day and then files it and pays it when it's due, on time for your restaurant every month. Davo takes just 5 minutes to set up, and once it's up and running, you never have to worry about paying sales tax again. Davo costs $49.99 per POS connection per month, and your restaurant can try Davo for the first 30 days free. Davo was created by a successful restaurant chef and owner who knows what's important for your operation. Time is money, and you've got more important things to focus on, like pleasing your guests. You can't put a price on peace of mind. Why not try Davo for the first 30 days at DavoSalesTax.com. Welcome back, everyone. This is the Restaurant Rockstars Podcast. These are engaging topics that help restaurants build their brands, rock their profits, and deliver amazing guest service experiences. Really excited today. I have Mr. TK Pillan, and he is the founder and executive chairman of the largest, most influential vegan vegetarian restaurant company in the U.S. Welcome to the show today, TK. How are you?
Thanks, Roger. Yeah, good to be here.
Now, that's quite something to have this company that is making such a stance towards the plant-based movement. So before we get into all that, I'd really like to know how you came to have this executive position with this company and what made you decide to. Have you always been plant-based yourself, or were you convinced to do this? And tell me about your executive background that led you to found this company.
Sure. So I had a career in technology. I went to MIT and had got an engineering degree, got into the computer systems world, got my MBA, and started an e-commerce development firm in the mid-90s. And so that was the first wave of the internet. And that company did quite well, and was able to sell a piece of it and then step away completely in 2004. And so then I had a blank slate. And so I started looking at what else I might want to do from a business perspective, and started honing in on health and wellness and the lack thereof here in the United States, and how I could help create a business that could be part of the solution. And then that actually led me to what I thought was a fundamental need that was not being met, which I personally was a big consumer, was just going out and trying to find delicious, healthy, convenient food, and not being able to find it. And for some reason, that really captured my attention. I really thought, hey, restaurants are a big part of American culture, and we need a restaurant that could help people enjoy the food, make it convenient, but also something that they could feel good about eating. And so that really led me to a second level of research, which which is where I discovered the benefits of plant-based. I wasn't a vegetarian or a vegan before that. My mother was, and she was a holistic nutritionist, dietitian, originally from India. So I was always exposed to food as medicine, but growing up as a mainstream American and eating basically mainstream American food and enjoying that overall cultural experience, never really occurred to me to think about. It never really seemed realistic to be vegetarian or vegan, but then I started diving in. Now I'm 37, diving into plant-based as potentially a healthier way to eat, and saw some data and research that was just coming out in 2005, and it was compelling, and so I tried it, and I had great results. I lost 20 pounds. My cholesterol went from over 200 to under 140. Just got a lot of energy back. I was a college athlete, and I was getting back to my workouts in the gym, and performance was kind of felt like I was getting younger quickly. And so I became a big believer in the benefits of plant-based food. And then really thought, as I dove into it, it was still kind of a pie in the sky idea of, hey, I'm going to start a restaurant chain without any food and restaurant background. But when I started diving into it, I started visiting some of the early vegan restaurants and saw that the food was pretty good, but the atmosphere, the overall is just something that wasn't going to appeal to a mainstream eater. And I thought, hey, there's a big opportunity here if you do it right to take this food that has all these benefits and can taste great when it's prepared the right way and can be convenient. If we put it in the right overall atmosphere and ambiance and made it fun, friendly, and familiar, we could bring it to mainstream eaters. And so that was it was a lot of passion, and there was a vision, and thought there was an opportunity and a need, and based on that, luckily brought on some good partners who could help fill in the gaps that I had from an experience standpoint, and we made it happen.
That's quite a story. And I think what really resonates is the word mainstream, because you are certainly disrupting the mainstream restaurant industry. Sure, there were vegan, vegetarian restaurants before, but not on a grand scale. And it's not the typical way that American diets are geared towards. So, that word disruption really comes up because that's what I see happening here. Let's talk about, the plant-based movement.
Yeah, great. You'll love it. Love how informed you are, and that just shows how far the movement has come. Back when we started in 2006, we started the first Veggie Grill. There was this general thought that vegetarian was better for you, but then there was a big question: can you get your protein? Can it actually satisfy me? So that was, there was kind of the early pioneers back then, but very few and far between. There was no Beyond Meat, no Impossible Foods. There was a company called Gardein that was just coming to market with a plant-based chicken right when we were starting Veggie Grill. But we were making our own plant-based proteins, tempeh and seitan, which is from wheat protein. And so it was really early days, and people didn't even think about plant-based or vegetarian in the environment. That data had not really gotten out there, although there were some early pioneers. There's some books that helped start this, I think, overall awareness. The China study by T. Colin Campbell had some pretty compelling data around the prevalent, as societies increase their consumption of meat and dairy, their rates of heart disease and cancer go up. And that was early data that now has been validated by several other very credible sources. And a lot of doctors, cardiologists now will recommend plant-based diets to their patients who need to make a change, and then there's some clear data around processed meats and their correlation to increased risk of various cancers, and then the environmental side of it. I think around 2010, 2011, the UN published a report around where the livestock industry and their contribution to greenhouse gases. And so that started, in 2006, nobody really was talking about it. Now, as you mentioned, the awareness has really built up, and there's been some great documentaries, Forks Over Knives, Game Changers, great products that I mentioned. So between the awareness, the fact that it works, right? Like I'm a believer because it worked for me, right?
Right,
So
right. Yes.
it's not a fad.
Nope, for sure.
When people really make a change to their diet and eat nutrient dense plant-based foods, and you can enjoy yourself too, right? With the plant-based meats and create the balance that works for you. It works, and it's become a lot easier, and the motivation has become a lot more. The awareness to create that motivation is out there now, right? And unfortunately, the problems we have from a climate change standpoint are becoming more and more clear. But hopefully that is going to motivate a change, and it is motivating changes. And so, yeah, we're really happy to be part of that movement and have started back in 2006. And our goal is to show people how you don't have to sacrifice anything. You can really enjoy yourself, have great food, have classic American comfort food, and do it without these negative effects that the traditional system has created.
We're going to talk about all the concepts in a moment, but I had a chance to go to the different websites, and I found that, I've always thought that great restaurant websites really give the guest an experience before they've actually gone into the restaurant. They can really, see and taste and feel the ambiance and what the food is going to be like. And your menu and the photography of the food, it just kind of draws you in, and it's absolutely tantalizing. Now, what I really want to ask you though is, how are your menu items designed for the flavor profiles and to replace what people are traditionally used to eating with a plant-based diet now, or a vegan vegetarian menu item? Like, I'm sure you've got a corporate chef that's just really amazing in the R&D process and all that kind of stuff. But tell us about the flavor profiles and what people can expect when they eat at any of your concepts if they've never dined in them before.
Yeah, well, certainly, I think a lot of the listeners out there, and I've certainly became a student of the restaurant industry before becoming an actual restaurant founder and executive. And, it starts with being great at something and really focusing on what you're going to be great at and putting all of the effort around finding the right products, preparing them in the right way, understanding what you're trying to get to. And so we were very clear from our early days at Veggie Grill that we're here to help people have their favorite food without sacrifice. And so that really honed us in on, we really lead with the burgers and the crispy chicken sandwich. And sure, we have salads and bowls that are great for the healthier eaters, but put a lot of effort on how do you take these plant-based proteins and prepare them with the right marinades, right sauces, and then have them end up being something that people take that bite and say, wow, right? Who knew that vegan or plant-based food could taste like this? So everything we do has that end vision and goal in mind. And yeah, as we all know, you can't be great at everything. So all our systems and processes and supply chain and R&D is all focused on finding the best of the plant-based world that allows us to deliver for Veggie Grill, that American grill experience, for stand-up burgers, that classic American burger stand experience, and for Moss Veggies, that the craveable burrito and taco experience.
That's fantastic. So do you have a certain process for creating new menu items, and how do you test these before you actually roll them out in the restaurants? Is there, do you have beta tests? Do you have focus groups with guests that aren't used to this type of diet? Like, what's your process there before a new item actually makes it to a store?
Sure. Well, as a 33 unit restaurant company, we still aren't, we can move pretty quickly. So we still do we can't just throw things on the menu, but we kind of do everything you mentioned, right? We'll do our own taste testing internally based on our own opinions and palates, but then we will do focus groups and then we'll do test items. We'll do LTOs for sure, but certainly we don't want to put an LTO out there without enough testing, because we do have a supply chain process now with the 33 versus when we first started with when you could just throw stuff on the menu. We're not, we don't nearly have that full in-depth process I think the larger restaurants groups have, but we're becoming more disciplined because there's a lot more to manage. But yeah, it is pretty entrepreneurial at this point.
Do you plan on franchising or maintaining company-owned stores?
Yeah, so we have to make the impact we want to make as quickly as we want to make it. Franchising is a part of it. And that's why we started the new burger concept, Stand Up Burgers, because that's a smaller kitchen, smaller menu, easier to run and manage, and it makes it a lot easier to franchise. And you can put them in smaller footprints, lower CapEx. So we're really excited about that concept. We have 3 of them right now, 2 in Chicago, 1 in Berkeley, getting ready to launch a couple in LA, a couple in New York, and that'll give us that basis to start franchising. So the goal is a year from now to really start looking for franchise partners.
Okay, let's talk about the history of the brands. Now, you've got Veggie Grill, you've got Stand Up Burgers, and then you've got Mas Veggies Vegan Taqueria. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And these 3 concepts, obviously, they didn't all roll out at the same time. Tell us about the history of each brand, what they each, represent in the marketplace, and what differentiates them perhaps from the competition. Not that there's tremendous competition in vegan, but, restaurants in general that are serving, there's a million burger joints. There's a million, Mexican taquerias and taco joints. But again, you're a differentiated product, but you do have competition from non-vegan vegetarian restaurants. But tell us about the history of each brand.
Yeah, so Veggie Grill, the original brand, launched in 2006 and has a selection of burgers, sandwiches, salads, and bowls, and is meant to be that American Grill broader menu. You could kind of anybody can get what they want. We have the appetizers with wings and nachos and. So it's kind of that classic American Grill experience, and it served us well. It's grown quite, we have 30 of them across the country. It really resonated across Southern California, then up to Seattle, Portland, Northern Cal, and now in Boston and New York as well. And so it really has created everything we have from an overarching G&A corporate infrastructure. But then, we, just like everybody, when we had some innovation plans, but when COVID hit, it forced us to innovate a lot quicker.
Yes,
right?
Of course.
We knew we wanted to create a smaller footprint, basically a mini Veggie Grill for some of the reasons I mentioned earlier, to allow us to get to smaller footprints and start working with franchise partners in a way that we thought would increase our chance for success. And so as we started looking at them, and we had to close a few of the Veggie Grills during the height of COVID, and as we were getting ready to reopen them, we said, well, let's reopen them with the mini Veggie Grill. And as we started looking at that, we started honing in on the burger side of our menu, and then we said, Veggie Grill stands for that broader selection, a little bit more of a health halo, because you can get your healthier salads and bowls and your tempeh and whole plant-based food items. The mini Veggie Grill is just going to be about burgers and shakes, and that's a different value proposition, slightly different eating occasion. It's a different concept, right? And so then we decided, okay, it should be its own concept. So that's when we came up with Stand Up Burgers as the brand. And it's about standing up for the planet, standing up for the future, but also having the freedom to eat a great burger and have that American burger and shakes experience. And so it allows the burger concept, Stand Up, to have its own voice and market to a slightly different audience with a slightly different proposition, which is this isn't about health. We think it's healthier, right? It doesn't have cholesterol, doesn't have animal fat. It's certainly healthier for the planet, but it's about enjoyment and just good old-fashioned burgers and shakes, but without the animals. So that's Stand Up Burgers, and so we converted 3 Veggie Grills into that, and we're really excited about the growth potential of that. And then Mas Veggies Vegan Taqueria was also born out of the innovation through COVID, because we had always had 1 or 2 burritos on the menu, but to really build out a burritos and tacos section of our menu would take us away from that American Grill concept and experience. And but it was the same core competencies around taking these plant-based proteins and preparing them in these ways that make them really satisfying and flavorful. but now using some different spices and putting them into the burritos and tacos. And so when we saw what was going on with the virtual digital concepts, we said, the world now could really use a vegan Mexican concept that delivers the best of the plant-based world in burritos, tacos, and nachos. We can do that based on our core competency and expertise of working with the best plant-based proteins and supply chain, and the fact that we already had burritos and tacos on our menu. But hey, with a new virtual brand, we can really build out that selection and create a brand that just stands for great vegan Mexican food. And so that's what led to our initial excitement around launching Mas Veggies Vegan Taqueria. We get very explicit that it's a vegan taqueria because it is a virtual brand. And so it's, everybody searched, like you said, there's a lot of Mexican places, and and so people are looking for something. And so we're out there for people those conscious eaters who said, I crave Mexican, but, I know vegan, plant-based is something that I'd like to do. And so that's what Mas Veggies allows you to do, have that great craveable Mexican experience. And but it's all takeout and delivery because we don't want to impinge on the Veggie Grill dine-in experience and American Grill concept. So those are the three of them. They all, at the end of the day, it is harder to run three brands. That's one of the new muscles we're creating. But they all have the same purpose, mission, and values. Purpose being helping to change American food culture for the better. The mission to help people begin, advance, and embrace their plant-based food journey, and the values around just making a difference. And so they all that's why it works, because they all have the same purpose, mission, values, but now we're slightly different focus areas and concepts.
I heard a couple of pivots that you had to make, obviously, when COVID became a thing. And obviously, it's devastated much of this industry. It sounds to me like your company was pretty well positioned in its offerings and how it delivered its offerings to its customers. But tell us about some of the challenges you went through. And, you were pretty much in the hot seat when this thing came out of nowhere, and you've got 30 plus locations, and you've got managers and people running these stores. And it's like, suddenly we got to damage control everything. We got to put a new plan in place. We have no idea what's coming next and what we can do. And different states have different rules and regulations about shutdowns and limiting, distancing and all that kind of stuff. Tell us about what you went through and how you pivoted and what your biggest challenges were and how you've come out of it, because it sounds like you're thriving right now and things are going well.
Yeah, it is hard for sure, because when we have a lot of urban office-centered locations, and close to 50% of our business was dine-in pre-COVID. So yeah, we got hit hard. And so we had to quickly, I mentioned we closed a few locations because they weren't worth keeping open because they were so office centered. And then we had to figure out how to deal with this new reality of all takeout and delivery. And so luckily we already had that muscle. We just had to build it up and really focus on the takeout and delivery. And then we added in that must. It was said, hey, via takeout and delivery, we can add this new concept. And so right. Luckily, we were able to think through that and launch that quickly. It helps to be a little smaller, although some of these big chains were really entrepreneurial too. So I think it's you got to quickly adapt and face reality. I had my own experience when the .com bubble burst in right. So I learned my lessons there, that you can't blink. You got to face the facts and make decisions quickly and control what you can control. And so those were kind of the fundamentals we went with. And that also led us to say, hey, let's launch the burger concept as we reopen these veggie grills that we closed. So I think, fundamentally it was just, hey, face the facts, control what we can control, make whatever decisions we think are best. We tried to care for our people as much as possible. At the same time, we had to make tough decisions and make sure we had a model that allowed us to survive. So luckily, we did those things, and we were able to get to where we are today.
A lot of the industry is struggling with supply chain issues and rising costs, a lot of protein products especially. So maybe you're insulated against that. Are you having any supply chain issues, or anything that's just going into the stratosphere in terms of costs, or are things pretty stable with plant-based diets and menus?
Well, it's certainly, we face a lot of challenges that other restaurants do. We do have one benefit in the plant-based world is there's a lot more innovation, a lot more products coming to market. So when we first launched Veggie Grill back in the 2006 through 2015, there were only a few suppliers. So it was our supply chain was somewhat challenged back then because we only had a few suppliers. Now there's way more suppliers because of all of this growth of the plant-based movement. So that has helped us. That's helped keep our costs from getting out of control. But it certainly is a challenge. Supply chain is a challenge for everybody. Labor is a challenge for everybody. The one challenge we don't have is spoilage. Plant-based doesn't spoil those proteins. So
nice point. Helps. That's great. That's great.
But we've been a little bit buffered based on this increased supply of new companies coming to market.
Now, you mentioned also the labor crisis, which is now the biggest challenge that operators are facing. Of course, first it's the pandemic. You think just when that is sort of coming to an end, even though it's not come to an end, now the labor crisis is huge. Are you having any challenges there? What are some of the best practices that your stores have put in place to retain, maybe motivate key staff, find new staff, that sort of thing?
Yeah, well, I think one of the things we do have and continue to focus on is we are a purpose-driven company. And so we have probably close to 50% of our team is really pretty passionate about plant-based, and that's why they're here. And so we obviously have to pay them well enough. And when I say well, I mean we try to take care of them as much as we can within our economic model. And certainly, we face the same challenges all restaurants do. That certain people just aren't looking at the restaurant industry as someplace they want to work these days. But we have been able to retain, I think, a good percentage of our team members because they enjoy what they're doing. They believe in what they're doing. And we continue to try and help. It's not a requirement to be vegan or vegetarian to work at Veggie Grill, but we do try to help people see the benefits of it and be proud of what they're doing and help them start their own plant-based journey, because that's what we're about as a brand. We're not about, hey, you have to be vegan, vegetarian, and you should do this. We're about, hey, try this. It's great. You'll love it. And then there's a lot of other, I think, great people and organizations out there helping to educate people about why maybe they should think about doing it more often.
All right. Let's switch gears a little bit to consistency. Every once in a while, I watch that show, The Undercover Boss, where someone who's a CEO of a big organization sort of infiltrates a single location under pretense of, I'm going to work here as a dishwasher. I'm going to, bust tables, whatever it is. And he finds out the ins and outs of the company. We've all seen that show. How do you maintain consistency? And what's your process of, I'm sure you travel quite a bit because again, there's 30 locations, you've got a team, of course, but just curiosity being what it is, you stop into your different locations, sometimes announced, sometimes unannounced. Like, how does that go? And, are people, taken aback when they see you, or are you just sort of a, calm, cool guy that says, hey, this is great. This is great. Did you think about doing this? Like, what's your process?
Yeah, well,
what do you see?
We try and get as many inputs as we can, and we're trying to get better and better at getting those inputs because there's a lot of restaurant companies that have grown a lot bigger than us that have gotten a lot, have their process, and so we're out there trying to learn how we can continue to get better. There's certainly a lot of tools out there that help capture social chatter and help you quickly see what people are saying on via the digital realm. We're trying to get better at feedback from our guests and link that in a little bit more effective way to give our guests more incentives to give us the feedback we need to make sure we're delivering. So we're monitoring all those sources right now as much as we can, and then doing our own visits for sure. And so it's an art, right? It's an art for sure. And so I'd say we don't do anything anybody else doesn't do. It's just a matter of trying to continue to make sure you're doing enough of it, and then making sure you're quickly addressing, hey, there's an issue here, and then where's that issue stemming, and how do we quickly correct it? Is it a system issue? Is it a person issue? And then quickly going after it.
So there's definitely a percentage of the dining public out there that have already embraced this plant-based movement, and that's what they're all about. But it's not, the majority of the eaters out there. And marketing, of course, is all about new and repeat business. So let's talk about how you get new people to try your concepts if they're not vegan or vegetarian, or have even tried a plant-based burger or any of the food items. And then what would you say the conversion is? What's their initial reaction when they try it? Because it certainly looks delicious. It certainly looks amazing. We talked about the flavor profiles and how you've added marinades and sauces and all these types of things. And, tell us about that. The first initial reaction of someone who's never used to this type of eating. Mm-hmm. And then how often will they come back, and will you convert them, and will they sort of take a stance against these things? Do you convince them this is the way to go? Tell us about that.
Yeah, great question. So we've had a lot of data points over the years, and certainly times have changed. But we still have that kind of taste and believe moment, right? And so that's the core of our marketing, food in mouth. Get people to try our food, whether we're sampling it at different events, we're hosting company lunches on us, we're doing what we call Veggie Rookie Days, where we're getting our loyal fans to bring in one of their friends who hasn't really started their plant-based journey, and we treat the friend. It's basically our way of doing a buy one, get one free, but doing it with a purpose.
It's an intro, sure. Yeah.
And so, it's all about food and mouth and getting people to try our food, because a lot of people just don't think it's going to satisfy them. And so we have that opportunity to show people, hey, this food actually is going to satisfy you, and it's great. And so when you talk about converting, I think, those people, it depends where they're coming from, but those people who just didn't even think about it, we're opening their minds, and they're like, oh, wow, okay, I can do this. And then, so now we open their minds and they start doing it more often. And then I don't think we're necessarily making them into vegetarians or vegans, but we're certainly opening their minds. And then maybe a few years later, they might think about, hey, for whatever reason, I'm going to do this more. But then there's the other group that has had some sort of wake-up call, right? Whether it's, probably a medical is usually the biggest wake-up call.
Right. I need to change my diet.
Well, how do I do this? And then they come to Veggie Grill and like, okay, I can do it. Right. We had a lot of people saying, wow, Veggie Grill really helps me stick to a plant-based diet. Because one, I know I can get a lot of great whole food plant-based options, but I can also have that craving. I can satisfy that craving and still stick to plant-based. And so that's kind of, to me, those are the two spectrums that we hit.
The retail industry, clothing comes to mind. You go into any shopping mall, and some of these bigger clothing chains have sort of consumer behavior dialed, and they've got music that has been proven to increase spending, and they pump fragrances into the air that relax people and get them to open their wallets, that kind of thing. That's a whole marketing strategy. Now, I'm seeing behind you, there's a message to craft food that's good for our lives and our future, which sounds to me like a mission statement. Tell me about the ambiance of your stores, and is the whole movement kind of part of the ambiance? Are there messages like that on the walls? Are there like green leaves? Like, tell us about that. And is there a plan or a design to, convert people and say, hey, this really is good for you. This is good for the planet. This is our mission. We hope it's your mission. I hope you love the food, but we really hope you come back, and we hope to change your lives in a positive way. Like, that's what I'm getting from your concept. Is there a marketing angle behind that, or is that part of the ambiance, or just describe the overall atmosphere of the stores in general?
Yeah, so it's certainly been something has been an ongoing balance for us, because I learned early on when I became a plant-based eater and started telling other people about the benefits. Don't tell people what to eat. That's not a good way to. That's a good way to end the conversation.
Okay, good point. So, thank you for sharing.
Yeah, so we try to. So we really focus on the enjoyment of it. And we're really leading into our new marketing. It's going to be focused on, or messaging. It's going to be focused on plant-based party. and we're throwing a plant-based party, and we're inviting everybody to come and enjoy. And so why they want to be at that plant-based party, there's certainly a lot of compelling reasons around what you just mentioned. And so we will, through our website and maybe through some of our supporting messages and the About Us, talk about why we're throwing this plant-based party and why we feel great about it, and why we thank you for being here. But first and foremost, this is about enjoyment, satisfaction, and just a place you're gonna want to be. And it's almost like a Tesla. That's kind of the analogy we have.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
that
it's
makes
an
sense.
electric car, but it's a great car, right?
Yeah, right.
We're here to throw a great party with great food and great hospitality. And then, by the way, it happens to be plant-based.
Now, your company donates to community and environmental causes, which obviously is a benefit to the planet, to people, and it's also sending a message to people that care about causes. Not only is this good food for you, but we also care about the bigger picture. It's not just about profits. Want to tell us about your community-minded environmental giving? Yeah,
we want to walk the walk for sure. Right, a lot of restaurants really, they focus on certain groups that they want to support, and we're here to help create a healthier future. And so we want to support. There's some great organizations that have done a lot of effort around raising awareness and helping give people those vehicles to support, whether it's a better environment, whether it's better treatment of animals, both. And so we want to work with them because we have the same mission, we have the same values, and so it's our way to walk the walk and really continue to cement who we are as a brand and a concept.
Now, I've always believed that you have to stay relevant, and survival of the fittest, of course, means more now than ever, especially during COVID and the labor crisis. And like we talked about, the industry's been devastated, and those that are still standing have really had to dig deep and rediscover the passion of why they get into this business in the first place. But then there's that whole technology side of things, where technology has really driven these restaurants to get out of, the doldrums and to move towards greater successes. What technology has been really important to you? I notice you've got a digital app. You've obviously embraced online ordering, which is crucial right now. Are you using third-party delivery services as well? Do you have your own delivery systems? Like, what technology has been really of primary importance to your company?
Yeah, we're like, I think every other restaurant company. We have to quickly adapt to this new world in digital, and so we certainly have a good following on our app, and that certainly has a lot of efficiency benefits and CRM applications. So we're trying to get better and better at that. So that's a big initiative for us. Delivery certainly has been a big piece of our mix. So we got to continue to optimize our delivery channel and continue to optimize our social and web channels, because that's our main, and the easiest and most current way to communicate. So we continue to make sure we're communicating in the right way and leveraging those different channels in the right way. But yeah, it's certainly a big part of the game these days.
You talked about the buy one, get one and introducing new people and friends to your concepts, but you also have a loyalty program. So I'm sure our audience would love to hear about, how that works, because loyalty and repeat business is everything today, not just serving somebody one time and never seeing them again. It's like you want to get them back again and again. And obviously loyalty is driving that. How does your loyalty program work?
Yeah, well, we give people points. You earn points anytime you use your app. You automatically get points, or you can, if you're not using your app, you can scan your receipt to get those points. So we may try to make it as easy as possible for our loyal guests to get those points, and then as they add up, you get your free entrees and your free desserts, and I think we're going to continue to look for additional ways to create those rewards. But yeah, it's just a matter. It's similar to a lot of concepts. We got to just keep making things easier and easier for our guests who want to be part of our want to support us, to make it easy, and then give them the reward and show them the love.
That's fantastic. We've covered a lot of ground today, TK. Is there anything I've missed that you want to tell the world at large, either about plant-based, about your concepts?
A lot, sure. But I think we try to continue to, I'd say, open minds, right? Hey, you don't think you can eat plant-based, give it a try, right? Give it a try. And then, it doesn't have to be all or nothing, right? That's another one of our, hey, we're shooting for a world where a lot of people are eating mostly vegan, right? That doesn't mean they have to be vegan, but it's like, hey, it's going to be more of what they do, and they'll save, some of the animal-based occasions for special occasions, right? And it all adds up, right? It all adds up to what's happening with the environment, and it all adds up to supporting the plant-based movement and allowing those companies to grow. And that's, we're about conscious capitalism, and business is the most powerful change mechanism. So we're trying to really do this through business, and how the more we succeed and more other plant-based companies succeed, the more impact we can have and the better we can get. And so just encourage everybody to try to help be part of this movement. You don't have to be vegan or vegetarian, but the more you could help support plant-based meals and eating and companies, the better.
Our audience is pretty diverse. I mean, we have independent operators out there. We've got general managers. We've got franchise companies. We've got franchisees. We've got servers. I mean, it's a pretty broad-based audience. But what is your best advice to those people that are in this industry? And everyone's been beaten up pretty bad, and bright days are ahead. But what would you tell people if they're still open, if they're still operating? I mean, you got to dig deep, of course, but what's your best advice to people out there that are in this business, just trying to get past all the challenges that we've been facing to realize the successes that are ahead?
Yeah, I say deep breaths every morning. Take some deep breaths and put everything in perspective, and understand where you're trying to get to, and one breath and one step at a time to get there.
I really appreciate you being with us, TK. So your URLs are standupburgers.com, eatmasveggies.com, and veggiegrill.com. I'm going to put all those URLs in the show notes for this episode. But if our listeners are intrigued by this episode, we hope you'll visit some of these locations and maybe even thinking about putting some plant-based meals on your own menus. That was the Restaurant Rockstars podcast, folks. We really appreciate you tuning in. Everybody stay well, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thanks so much, TK, for being a great guest on the podcast and sharing your concept and your operating philosophy with us. Thank you so much to the sponsors of this week's episode, Davo and the Restaurant Rockstars Academy. And thanks again to our audience, as always, for tuning in. We appreciate you listening. Please leave us a question, because we love answering those. And we'll see you in the next episode. Stay tuned.
People go to restaurants for lots of reasons. What the customer doesn't know is the thousands of details it takes to run a great restaurant. This is a high-risk, high-fail business. It's a treacherous road, and smart operators need a professional guide. I'm Roger. I've started many highly successful, high-profit restaurants. I'm passionate about helping other owners and managers not just succeed, but knock it out of the park. You don't just want to run a restaurant. You want to dominate your competition and create a lasting legacy. Join the Academy, and I'll show you how it's done.
Thanks for listening to the Restaurant Rockstars Podcast. For lots of great resources, head over to restaurantrockstars.com. See you next time.